Hello, everybody, and welcome to the weekly Roar. This week, I am continuing the growth series with a special guest to discuss the law of the ladder. But first, I'm Greg Storch. I am the founder of Lion Enterprise. That's a leadership development and coaching company. I'm a certified professional coach and a speaker, coach, and trainer with the John Maxwell team. Last week on Wednesday, I spoke with my good friend and fellow certified professional coach, Susan Wynn. Her friends call her Susan Winning. She's down in Texas, and we spoke about the law of pain. And she did not hold back one bit, sharing her story. She had a traumatic car accident years ago that claimed her dominant arm. And she had to rebound from that. And her story was inspiring and full of hope and perseverance. And I loved it. I hope you caught my chat with Susan on the law of pain last Wednesday in Facebook in the Lion's Den. But if you did not, don't worry about it. Just go to my website at www.lion-enterprise.com. When you get to my homepage, go to the Lion's Pride Library. If you click on that link, it'll take you into the library. And Susan's chat with me is video number 45. So look her up and check them out. And check out all my other videos while you're in there. You're going to love them. So this week, I'm continuing my growth series. I started doing this in January, doing the 15 invaluable laws of growth, and we're, I believe, on number 9 now. And we're talking about the law of the ladder, and that's character growth determines the height of your personal growth. So we're going to be talking a lot about building your character and what character is and why it's so important to have that as a foundation for you to build upon as you're growing personally. So here with me today, I can't wait to chat with him from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where my father was born and raised, and my alma mater. That's where I went to the University of Pittsburgh for my master's degree. He's a fellow speaker, coach, trainer. He's a consultant, and he's an entrepreneur, just like me. David McGlennen. David's the president of Impact Leadership Consulting. He's a certified high-performing culture consultant. And hold on, there's more. He's a certified human behavior consultant. David, welcome to the Weekly Roar. And thank you so much for spending some time with us today to talk about the law of the ladder.
Greg, it's my pleasure to be here. I've been waiting since you invited me. I've been waiting to be on here. I couldn't wait. You've had some amazing guests on, and it truly is my honor to be here. So thank you for allowing me and inviting me.
Oh, I love it. I'm so excited. David, I think you know that I've taken each one of these laws and I've matched them up with friends of mine who are leaders, coaches, entrepreneurs. And of course, for you, I picked the law of the ladder because as I was thinking through my list and who I wanted to speak on this, I just felt that that's how you always came across in our dealings, that you were a person, with a solid foundation of character. So that's why you got this law. So
thank you. Thank you.
Huge tenet of today's law actually is what you live on a day-to-day basis. And so I like to actually start these discussions out by sharing a little bit about your overall growth journey before we get into the details of the law. So what's your growth journey been like for you, and when did it get started, and how did you know to get intentional about it?
Those are two different questions for me. So the first, yeah, it really is, because first of all, I think at a very early age, I'm trying to pinpoint in my own mind, it probably was in my early 20s, my late teens, early 20s, when my dad used to have these magazines or these catalogs that would come to our house, in the day and age when we didn't have internet and we would actually order things when we had to, pick up the phone and actually call and order something.
Right.
He had these catalogs from a company called Nightingale Conan. And so I remember seeing my dad ordering these tape series and listening to these cassette tapes in his car. And so I remember one time I ordered a series. I don't even remember the name of the series, but I do remember who it was. It was Dennis Waitley. And so it was really in the context of mindset and strengthening your mental toughness.
Hmm.
And matter of fact, that might have even been the name of it, mental toughness training. And Dennis Waitley was a gentleman who trained astronauts and trained people for mental capacity, mental toughness.
Wow.
And I remember listening to one of his tapes in this series, and he talked about having a mental framework where you are in control of your own thoughts and your own calendar, and the things that happen in your life.
Hmm.
And for some reason, for me, this like light bulb just went off. And when it went off, it triggered something in me. And from there on, I knew that I wanted to grow. I knew that I wanted to be able to be everything that God instilled in me and created in me. I'm a man of faith, so it's a basis and a foundation of
Hmm.
really who I am, and I want to be able to make sure that I develop everything that God wanted me to develop within me.
Awesome. So, but about what age did you say you were when you started listening to those tapes?
Honestly, I was probably in the early 20s because
Wow.
it's funny because I started out in college as a music major. So I was a trumpet player,
Nice.
and in my high school years, I never took music theory. So my first semester in college, I took a music theory class, blew me away. I was in practice rooms trying to figure out chord structures on a piano. I
Oh
never
my
played
gosh.
piano. And so I had to get through that course. I passed the course, but I mean, it was a lot of work. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm way behind the curve here, so I think I better go into business. And I entered into a business school, changed colleges, changed universities, and then eventually, shortly thereafter, went into business with my father. I was really privileged to be able to go into business with him and help him grow an insurance agency. We were partners for almost 20 years, which was
Wow.
just really amazing and fascinating. We had our ups and our downs,
Yep.
but it was early on, I think, in that component of when I was switching over from music to business, to really understanding that if I was going to take my growth to the next level, that it wasn't going to stop after I left university. And so I just continued to buy tapes, set goals, and look for ways to grow myself.
Mm.
Um, the second part of your question, though, I think is you used the word intentional.
Yeah.
And I love that word, and it's come to a different meaning for me. And quite honestly, I think it didn't have its meaning to me as it does to not today, or the same meaning today as it did back then,
Hmm.
because I read the book by John Maxwell, Intentional Living. And when I turned 50, there was something that went off in me that said, wow, I'm not going to live forever. Go figure. I think up until then, I thought I was going to live forever.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but I began to become really intentional and specific about what areas do I want to really hone in on in my last half of my life. And
Wow.
so that's really when intentionality, I think, came to the place in my own life right now where it is.
Wow. Every time you and I talk, I find how much more similar we actually are with each other. It's amazing.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So, the intentionality also came late, and the second quarter or second half, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. So, this law, the law of the ladder, is all about creating the proper foundation of our growth. And John Maxwell in this book tells us that foundation is our character. We can have
Mhm.
everything we ever wanted in life. We can have that big house and the fast car and the great career and a big fat bank account. But if all of that stuff rests on a weak foundation, poor character, then it's sure to all come crumbling down at one point or another. There was a guy named Doug Firebaugh. And he said achievement to most people is something you do. To the high achiever, though, it's something you are. And
Mhm.
that made me really think. So that's a great quote about the importance of character, I think. And so that's one thing I kind of alluded to that earlier on. That's one thing I have to say about you, David, is you've always, in my eyes, and probably many others, have always come across as a person of character. So I want to drill down into that today because that's what forms a solid foundation. So if we need to have a sturdy foundation to support our personal growth, then, I want to think into how can we continue to develop the character we have. And John, I think because I know you've read this book time and time again, he actually suggests 5 ways to do it. One of the first things that we need to develop is the inside, and the outside follows that. So that leads me into my first question for you is, what are some of the things that you focus on, David, to develop who you are on the inside? And maybe give us a peek into what your daily routine looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that the foundation of habits is really key to developing your inside and your character. And
Mhm.
I start my mornings by it's really a morning ritual or a morning routine. I know
Mhm.
sometimes that word ritual can repel people, but to me, I attract to it because it helps to set me on the right path, and it triggers certain habits and certain behaviors within me.
Mhm.
So my morning starts off, and I will tell you, I've revamped my morning. I am now a morning person. I was never a morning person for vast majority of my career. I
Yes.
thought I thought morning started like at 7 or 8 a.m. And then and the day didn't end till like midnight or 1 a.m.
Right. Yeah.
uh, but I've since transformed the way I think about that. And one of the reasons why I did is because people that I looked up to, mentors and
Mhm.
people who I viewed as being very successful, had a very routine or structured morning routine and a structured morning ritual. And
Mhm.
so my morning starts off between 5:15 in the morning, which I know to some maybe not be super early, but for me, that's where I start off. And I come down, grab a cup of coffee, um, add a little MCT oil into it, and
Yes,
get
yes,
my
yes.
get my day started off
Mhm.
in the right fashion, fueling my brain. And then I have a chair that I sit in, and I start my morning ritual. And so I'm the order in which I'm going to tell you this is I've been playing with it a little bit, but I
Okay.
usually start off with my Bible reading time and my spiritual
Mhm.
practice of praying and reading scriptures and really feeding that spiritual part of me. Um, I usually follow that by then some kind of journaling. And again, I've been playing with this as well. Most of the time, one of the keys I know in this chapter in this law is gratitude, and he talks about practicing gratitude. And so that's how I practice gratitude is in this journaling process.
Mhm.
I have been making it a practice to at least think of 3 things that I'm grateful for in this day or the day before. And it's not things like, oh gosh, I'm glad for my health. That's all great, but it's been tending to be here's just a quick example because I just wrote this not too long ago. I'm really thankful for the conversation that we had at dinner time with my boys. The conversation between me and Andrew was just phenomenal. I'm really grateful for that. I know that kind of thing isn't going to happen too much longer because he's about to graduate, and so he'll be gone in a very short time. So that gratitude practice is part of my journaling.
Mhm.
Um, then from there, I will usually do some kind of meditation practice. And so and I've been on this visualization kick. So I have an app. It's called Envision, Envision. It's a great app. And it helps to be able to envision the things that I want for that day. I just went through a habit series. So I was envisioning a habit that I wanted to instill.
Ah.
Um, So it's a great app. I've been using that visualization as a practice and part of my morning routine. And then generally I follow that by reading. I'm a voracious reader. Last year I think I read 22 books, 21 books. I don't recall right now. But I have a book, at least one book or maybe two that I'm reading at all times. And so I always want to fill my mind then with new ideas, new thoughts, new perspectives, so that I can continue to grow. And it feeds and it fuels my character, my internal fulfillment. And then from there, generally, then I go and take my shower and get ready for my day.
Awesome. I love how you touch on these different facets of life, because that really talks about your character and what things are important to you, and paying attention to each cogs in the wheel, so to speak, in your life wheel, right? Like the spirituality, the religion, the health, the mental, all of those things, and paying attention so you can maintain a balance. And so I hear you saying that focusing on those things is what helps strengthen your character, to develop that sturdy foundation for your personal growth. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's one component so what got me on this kick too, just a little side note. So there was a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And if you or your listeners haven't read it yet, it's a very small book, but it was the one that impacted me the most about changing my morning routines and actually becoming a morning person. And he uses an acronym in there. It's called SAVERS. And so S stands for silence. A stands for affirmations. V is for visualization. E is for exercise. R is for reading. And S is for scribing. So I've kind of altered that a little bit to match me. One thing I don't do in the morning, and this is going to surprise some people maybe, is that I don't exercise in the morning. I found that my body rebels against exercise in the morning, and I'm okay with that. But because I'm grateful that I can create my own schedule. My workout time is right about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So right after the lunch hour, I hit the gym or head outside for a hike or something, and I get my exercise in that way in that time.
Yeah, I knew that about you because one of my former guests, Anza Goodbar, does the same thing, and I remember you actually commenting on that.
That's right. I do remember that now. Yes,
absolutely.
I was like, I'm glad I'm not alone.
I think as I'm, sliding into 52 this year, I think I might give that a try. I just picked up biking into work, which I'm really happy to be having that little bit of exercise. But I really miss running. I tried to do it in the mornings, and maybe I just need to try shifting that and see how my attitude adjusts. So, David, I know you're focused on creating positive work cultures. You and I have talked about that quite a bit because you and I both are really focused there. So, and we do that so employees have a better environment to grow and work. So I know you believe that people matter, and that's one of the tenets of developing your character is realizing that people matter. So how has your ability to think of others first help you to build your character?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, well, here's the thing that comes to my mind. So one of the behaviors, and when I work with a company, I typically talk in terms of defining a culture by behaviors. So things like practicing blameless problem solving, listening generously, creating win-win solutions. So I think of creating win-win solutions, and I think of that behavior because it requires me to step outside of myself and actually kind of put myself on the other side of the table from myself, and really specifically think about what does the other person see? What's the other person's perspective? And that particular behavior, I actually have it sitting up because it's this week's behavior of the week. So in the context of a high performing culture, we take a fundamental or a behavior a week and really talk about it a lot. So because I'm focused on creating a win-win solution, I have to be able to get outside myself and practice that. And when I do that over and over and over again, it just kind of wires it into me to be able to think that way. And so I think anytime that we can practice getting out of our own head and asking the question, what does the other person see? That's going to
Mm.
be helpful for, building our own character, because we're thinking of them and we're thinking from their perspective.
Yeah, as you're talking, what's hitting my brain right now is that quote about, being selfless doesn't mean thinking of yourself less. I love that.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
some people are afraid to not, be selfless. So
Right.
that's a big piece. So thanks for sharing that piece of it,
Yeah.
with another way of developing your character is to, be thinking of other people, and that helps to build your character. So one of the other ways to build your character is by being humble, practicing humility. And being humble comes from many things that we learn and do. Some of my favorite things that have kept me humble have been, one, and I know you relate to this, is having that beginner's mindset, not acting like you
Yeah.
know it all. That keeps you humble. Like, you don't know everything, and you can always learn something new, and being open to receive that. And then the other thing is, and you talked about this already, is being grateful. So you're journaling to that, almost like
Yeah.
this attitude of gratitude. So I wanted to talk to you about both. So this is going to be a two-part question.
Sure. Sure. Okay. All right.
A lot of people see you as an expert in what you're doing. So knowing that, how do you keep a beginner's mindset when people see you as an expert? How do you see yourself as with a beginner's mindset and more as the apprentice than the expert in order to stay humble?
Well, I think one thing that I do is I really try to be, not the smartest person in the room, which isn't hard. I really enjoy being on. I really enjoy being around other people that are so smart, because
Yeah.
I love being able to pick their mind, and that always keeps me humble, because I know that I don't know everything, and that I think that helps me to keep a beginner's mindset. But I also know that especially in the day and age that we live in,
Mm.
with all of the information that's coming at us, information is changing, technology is changing, and what I might think I know today, 10 minutes from now, it probably has changed. And so I am probably more than ever just opening myself up to knowing that things change. And so, where I'm coming from may not necessarily be true anymore. And I'll tell you the other thing that kind of keeps me in that beginner's mindset, and it's kind of going back to creating win-win solutions, and thinking from another person's perspective, and getting out of my own thought process, and trying to envision what does it look like from somebody else's perspective, because then I know that somebody else can see the same exact thing, but just in a different way. I think you may be familiar with the beach ball scenario that one of
Yeah.
our mentors puts together.
Correct.
We're looking at the same ball, but if I'm looking at it, I'm seeing orange, and on the other side, you're seeing blue. We're looking
Mhm.
at the same ball, but
Love it.
yeah. So so those are a couple of things that I do to try to keep a beginner's mindset. And I'll I'll tell you too. I just started another business with my son, and it's really kind of a whole family affair.
Uh-huh.
And I'm telling you what, you know, um, having family be a part of your business, and really, because they know my faults, they know my downfalls,
Mhm.
and I think that really helps me to understand that I don't know everything, and because they can see it and they can call me out on it, because they know me so well. So
Dang
that's
it.
helpful as well. That's really helpful.
That's funny.
Not always the most fun, I have to admit.
I can imagine. you had you had mentioned you know, surrounding yourself with smart people, and I know you've heard this. I think it's in the John Maxwell circles. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? I,
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah,
Get
absolutely.
out of that room.
Get out. Absolutely. Oh man. Yeah, I put myself into masterminds. So I right now I'm in 3 different masterminds. And the beauty of that is that you know, the power of other people speaking into a situation, even if I'm not the one that's put out a challenge or an issue that we're kind of processing, I'm gaining so much from that because I, I mean, if you've not experienced it, you know, that third mind, as Napoleon Hill talks about, is it's a phenomenon that you have to experience, I think, to really understand it. So anyway, that's another way that I do to try to keep that beginner's mindset.
Oh, that's great. Funny you're bringing that up again because, again, Anza Goodbar, when I interviewed her, she's in 4 masterminds this year.
I love it.
So, all right, all right. I'm getting the message. So this is
Love
twice.
it. Love
Um,
it.
David, there's a Chinese proverb that says, "Those who drink the water must remember those who dug the well." In
Ah,
other
yeah.
words, our success comes in large part from the efforts of others. And I learned that lesson at a very young age in the Navy. When I was getting personal decorations early in my career, and my leaders always drilled into me that, like, you did not get that award. The people that you were leading, you know, made you successful enough to get that. And I really learned that concept. So I love it. What what is a success that you've realized in your career that had to do in part because of the efforts of other people?
That's a great question. There's so many.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, there's so many because honestly, I mean, I think when I was 20, you know, I was talking about that time back when I was 20 and I'm
Mhm.
just learning. I thought
Yeah,
it was all me. Oh, it's all me. You know,
of
I'm, you
course.
know, self assured. You know, oh, got this. I recognized, you know, very quickly that that wasn't the case. But I think one thing that one time or one accomplishment I think that is rising to the surface is that. So I was part of a company that was a startup company back in 2009, and we had, you know, some really great success. It was in the wellness space, and so we had some wellness technology that we were able to help companies navigate some new laws and regulations. And I had the privilege of going out and telling companies about this, and then bringing back a client. And then I had an account management team that was just phenomenal. We had implementers, we had implementation team, we had account managers, and quite honestly, the execution of that new client would not have happened were it not for that team and those people. All I had to do was go out and tell people about it, educate them, and then have them say yes. And so once that happened, you know, to actually get it to um, take place like I said it would,
Yeah.
I needed that team. And so that's just, yeah, I mean, just one example of when, you know, I perhaps got the accolades, but it was the team that really deserved it because it wasn't really me, it was them. And so that's one example of a success that was because of other people's efforts. And um, it's it's always that way. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it honestly, it's always that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So
That was a great example, actually. So thanks for sharing that one with us.
yeah,
Perfect.
sure,
And
sure.
I know you had to think into it and grab one out of the many, but it's interesting because as you realize that later in life, and then you look back on your successes, you can pick out those people that all contributed, and then you are like, wow, man, you know, if it weren't for so and so, I would have never have gotten to here or there. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And a matter of fact, it's interesting when you said that just now, somebody else popped into my mind, and it was the CEO of that company because he is instrumental in really where I am today with my coaching and consulting business,
Wow.
because when I told him I wanted to leave and start this business, he basically said, well, then, Bravo Wellness will be your first corporate client. So we'll contract with you, and you can help train our team and train our sales team. And so I was able to do that. So had it not been for him and that gesture of business, it would have been much harder to get started. And so he paved the way for me to get to where I am
Yeah.
today. So
Wow.
totally grateful for that. Um,
That's
yeah.
wow. That is an amazing group. And for him to do that is even more amazing.
And it really goes to what drives me to be able to create environments where people really do value people and
Mhm.
value that human being who is helping the company serve that mission. And
Mhm.
to the extent that their season, whenever their season with a company is through, because we all run through seasons,
I love it.
recognizing that season, it's okay, and that development of that person needs to move on, perhaps to another company to serve through that season of their lives, and just recognizing that that's a natural evolution of that person and that organization, quite honestly. So and I don't think too many companies get that yet,
Yeah.
but I believe that there's a movement, and you and I are helping companies to do that because we feel so passionately about people and
Mhm.
about how helping people to grow through their process, through their career, through everything that they're doing for a company.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I love that. And I just wrote it down. Seasons.
Yeah, I
Okay,
love it.
last question as we're sliding into the finish line. Just give
Sure.
us an overall, just give us your 2 cents on the importance of developing character, and how that solid foundation supports your personal growth.
Well, I think the first thing that I would say is that it really is the foundation. I think that if we don't have character, we don't have anything. And if we don't have integrity, we don't have humility, and those things that we can only build up on the inside,
Yeah.
we're really not going to be fully effective in whatever we're doing, whether it's with the company, as in a role with an organization, in our families. So I think that character building and character growth, it truly is the foundation to everything. So I would just challenge people to look at their habits and look at the things that they can do to build some of those disciplines in, because I think discipline creates character, and discipline does not have to be a negative connotation. Discipline is just a routine or a cadence and a rhythm of your life that supports where you want to be and who you want to be. And I think
Mhm.
that John, even in this chapter, talks about being that person so that we can do the things that we want to do, so
Yep.
that we can have the things that we say we want to have. Everything starts with being. We have to
Mhm.
be, do, then have. So I think that developing character, I think this is really probably I know it's kind of right in, I'm looking at my book, it's right in the middle of
Mhm.
the book. And I think really it is the middle, it's the foundation of each of the laws of growth. So
David is talking about the 15 invaluable laws of growth, and David and I are discussing this law, the law of the ladder. If you're catching on to this and you're like, what the heck is this? I got to get my hands on it. Look, this is a $12 paperback book. It's an inch and a quarter thick. You'll get through it in a week and it will change your entire life. So if you want to learn more and dig down into this chapter or all of the chapters we've been covering, I just recommend you grab this book and start reading it. There's so much more than what we're doing, but what I didn't want to do was give you a book report or regurgitate. This isn't a book study for 15 weeks. It's
right.
real life applications of each and every one of these 15 laws by people who have not only lived it and are doing it, but have seen the benefits of these laws in their own lives. So David's a perfect example of this. And so David, we're wrapping up now. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to share with us, what are you actually working on right now with your company? And after you tell us that, also give us a way, if people want to connect with you, learn more about what you're doing, or maybe even talk to you about coaching services, if that's available, how can they get a hold of you?
The main thing that I'm working on right now is, I shouldn't say the main thing. There's two main thrusts of the organization, and only two. But one leads to the other. So I created an experience called the Emerging Leader Inner Circle. It truly is an international experience, and you were on the kickoff call for that, which was amazing. We appreciated you being on that. And this experience is for those leaders within an organization who are what I'm calling emerging leaders. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a young leader or a young person. I actually have a company who has several people in this emerging leader inner circle that are, close to my age, 50 years old, but this is their first supervisory experience, and they wanted to be able to learn into and actually get some of these laws built into them. We aren't specifically going through these laws right now, but we're starting with some basis of mindset development, learning how to be, do, and have everything that we need to, so that we get the results that we want to get. So that's one thing that I'm working on. Cool. But I also am working on a webinar teaching the structure of a high-performing culture. And so that's going to be coming up in April. I don't have the date in front of me. My calendar's not up, but it's going to be in April, and I'll definitely send you the link to that, because I would love for people to participate and jump on and see the structure that I really feel will revolutionize companies in implementing behavior-based high-performing cultures. So those are the two things that I'm working on right now.
That's exciting. I can't wait. We will put the dates down in the comments during the watch party, so people can see when you're going to do that. So send me those dates. And on contacting you, what's your website, and how do you prefer that people reach out to you?
My website is just davidmcglennen.com, David, McGlennen.com. Yep. And Instagram, I'm at @DMcGlennen. And feel free to message me there. I'm on LinkedIn, LinkedIn message, Instagram message, or my email, david@davidmcglennen.com.
Awesome. Hey, David, I can't thank you enough again for spending a half hour with us out of your time to share with us on this watch party and talk about the law of the ladder and how it's impacted your life and all about your growth journey. Thanks so much.
It's my pleasure, Greg. Thank you for asking. I really do appreciate it. And I'm honored that you chose this one for me. I really, really am honored. And so thank you.
That's awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in and watching another broadcast of the Weekly Roar here in this watch party. This has been exciting. I love interacting with you guys. And I really appreciate the support you're giving me on my journey. So listen, this is exciting. David, you're going to love this. Next week, I'm going to be back here again, same place, same time. And I'm going to be speaking with Jillian Anderson. She is the founder of Jillian Anderson and Associates. And if you didn't know this, she's the creative director at the John Maxwell team. Lovely lady. I can't wait to talk to her, because I have a little backstory about how I tuned into Jill about almost 2 years ago. Jill's going to join me, and we're speaking about law of the rubber band, and man, you are in for a treat. You do not want to miss this. So until then, everybody, just remember one thing: be powerful, but stay poised, just like a lion. See you, everybody.